Hey there guys, it's Adam here from adaminsights.com, and in this video we're just going to be loading up my Leica 1C with some Kodak Portra 160 film. I'm really excited to be trying out some film properly in this camera, and the reason I'm choosing the Kodak Portra 160, let's face it, Kodak Portra is definitely one of the very best color films out there. It's very forgiving, particularly if you're a bit out with your exposure. It is sensitive to such a broad spectrum of colors. It has beautiful dynamic range, and it just looks great. And I've often shot it in my modern day Leica MP with modern day Leica M series lenses, and I reckon it would be really cool to pitch that against a Leica camera that is almost a century old. The other reason I'm shooting Kodak Portra color film is because I'm going to get it developed in the same high quality lab that I use for my Leica that I use for film that I've shot in my Leica MP. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, this camera may never have shot color film before, and yes, it was made for black and white film, and there's a lot of traditionalists who could well be watching this video thinking, why don't you put black and white film in there? Well, black and white film today is generally hand developed, and that can bring in some other factors that could affect the quality of the images, whereas the place that I take my film to, Adelaide Central Market Photo Co. in the Adelaide Central Market, has got such a high quality piece of equipment in there for developing. Their results are fantastic, always extremely consistent, so I figured it would be best to get this developed to the same standard as I would get film developed in my Leica MP. Anyway, without further ado, let's just go ahead and load this guy up. So we just take the base plate off. It's a little bit stiff, and I'm also being very, very gentle given the age of this camera. So film goes in that side, you thread it through here, and it wraps onto this spool. So we'll just take our spool out. So film goes in like so. Okay. Just being very gentle here given the age of the camera. Okay. Just make sure that's on the spool, the teeth of the spool correctly. Okay, so we're on the sprockets, which is brilliant. Now I'll just show you a little bit about how the camera works before we seal it up. So there's some sprockets in there that the film has to line up with. It is a bit difficult, and sometimes you just have to nudge the film in a little bit here. So if I just wind on the camera there, you can see it pulling the film through. It's currently just on bulb mode. I'm just going to seal up. So now, winding on the camera, you can see obviously our rewind moves along as we're moving the film through the camera. Currently it's just on bulb mode, and I'll show you why. I'll just take the lens off. So there's the cloth shutter. Let's just wind on a little bit. There's the film. Okay. Ordinarily you wouldn't do all of that after you've just loaded some film, but I'm just looking to show, I'm just showing you how it works. Just gently get the lens back on. So I'm going to be shooting with the Sunny 16 rule, which means that, well, first of all, I'll have to just wind on the camera here, and then I'll set my shutter speed to 100th. Okay. Now, yes, it's 160. It's Kodak Portra 160, but I actually quite like the slightly overexposed look you can get with Portra 160. So I'm setting that at 100, and the aperture we will set at f16. That will give me a lot of depth in my images as well, because there's no focus assists whatsoever in this camera. There's no rangefinder, obviously there's no autofocus, it's all guesswork. So the more I can shoot at f16, the better. So the Sunny 16 rule is you set your shutter speed to be at or as close to the ISO of the film as possible, and then you set your aperture to f16, providing that it's a bright sunny day. If it's overcast or shadowy, then you just drop down the aperture or slow down your shutter speed. It is guesswork, but it's actually really good guesswork as well. So one other thing, one just word of caution with shooting these guys. You'll notice as I fire that, the shutter speed dial actually spins around. And you've got to be careful not to touch that as it's spinning around, because that will actually adversely affect your exposure time. So I'm just going to wind on a couple of times just to bring non-exposed film into the chamber. That should be enough. Okay, now I'm going to go out and shoot.